Hello students and welcome back from your autumn holidays. I'm looking forward to seeing you this week again. In this video, I would like to summarize a sample solution for the exam that we did right before the vacations. I think it is a great opportunity to recap some of the concepts that we worked through in the last few weeks. Here I have the specification of the exam. Let's go through it and develop the solution step by step so you see how you can approach a problem like that and how you can write the required code. First, I want to remind you what the exam was about. It was about phone calls, a phone call log, and calculating the costs of tariffs that customers have for our data transfer plans and phone plans. In general, we are working at a fictitious phone company, and this phone company offers a lot of different phone tariffs, as you can see it here. For this exam, we focus on three different fundamental types of phone tariffs: flat fee, pay-as-you-go, and mixed. Flat fee means that a customer pays a fixed amount and it covers all the calls and the entire data transfer amount. Pay-as-you-go means there is no base fee, but you pay for each megabyte of data transfer and each phone call. And mixed means that you pay a little bit of a base fee, and the base fee contains a certain amount of megabytes data transfer and phone minutes. And if you exceed this amount, you have to pay a certain amount per megabyte. In this exam, we ignore phone calls and only calculate the costs for data transfer. So phone calls are not relevant. As always, the exam is structured into minimum requirements and, if we scroll down, additional requirements. You must solve the minimum requirements in order to achieve a positive grade. The additional requirements then are a possibility for you to determine your grade between 4 and 1. 1 is the best here in Austria for those who are watching this video from other countries, and 5 would be a negative grade, and 4 is the least good grade that you can achieve in an exam, but still it is sufficient. Let's take a look at the minimum requirements. We have to create a class library which is called phone tariff logic, a console app, phone tariff app. Both projects must be in a solution, and the phone tariff logic application has to contain classes that look like that. So let's implement these 4 requirements first. Let's put this one here to the side. Let's take this one here and let's create the required applications. I will spin up Visual Studio Code. I will put it here on the left-hand side, make it a little bit smaller, so I can have the requirements and Visual Studio Code here side by side. Let me arrange the screen a little bit. In real life, you would probably have a larger monitor, but here I'm trying to simulate that by opening the windows side by side. Let's get started. The first thing that we have in the requirements here is to create a class library. Remember, you can press the F1 key to bring up the command palette here. And then you have a command which is called new .NET project. Let's select exactly that one. It will now ask us what we would like to create. And the first requirement is to create a class library. So we select the class library here. And the next requirement is that we need to name this one phone tariff logic. Oh, I shouldn't have left the focus of Visual Studio Code here, so I have to select it again. I'm sorry. I'll type it in here, and that will be in the default directory, and that will give us a solution file. The solution file has a reference to the logic library. Here we have the logic library, and remember, you have the solution explorer where you see the whole structure of your solution. So first requirement, check. Next requirement is we need a console app called phone tariff app. So let's repeat the steps that I just shown you. Press F1, go to .NET new project, select a console app, enter the name of the console app, press enter, default directory, and our solution now references the logic library and the app. Here you see the app, here you see the logic library. The solution explorer was updated accordingly. Check. Second requirement, check. Now what we additionally need is the app to use the logic. So what we need is we can right click on the app, we can say add project reference and let the app reference the logic library. Let's do that. And if we do that, and if we take a look at the CSproj file, you see that we now have a project reference from the app to the logic library. This is exactly what we wanted. So requirement 1, check. Requirement 2, check. Requirement 3, check. And now we need to implement these 4 classes here in the logic library. So let's go to the logic library. It is here. Maybe rename the file here. Class 1 is not very good. Let's call it tariff. And inside of tariff C#, we will have the namespace specification here. And here we can add our classes. The first class should be the tariff class. And if we take a look at the UML diagram here, we see that the tariff class is purely used as a base class. So what we are going to do, we mark that one as abstract. Can you remember? Abstract classes act as base classes. Let me make that a little bit larger so we can read it more easily here on the right hand side. The tariff class needs to have an abstract decimal calculate fee double megabyte. So let's add exactly that. Public abstract decimal calculate fee double megabytes. And with that, our tariff class is done. It is for inheritance. We have our abstract method. Remember, the abstract method is a method that must be implemented by derived classes. Check, done. Now let's implement the derived classes. Let's start with a very simple one with the pay-as-you-go. Oh, no, even there is a simpler one. Let's start with the flat fee here. So let's implement public class flat fee. And this flat fee contains, on the one hand side, the decimal monthly fee. That is a property. So let's do a public decimal monthly fee. And this monthly fee should be gettable and settable. We could also do it with a constructor, but in this case, I want to keep it simple. I want to have a simple solution, and let's make this one gettable and settable. I will disable my GitHub Copilot. Let's disable completions for the moment because GitHub Copilot is spoiling too much. I want to write the code by hand, just as you did in the exam. Now, what we can now do with the flat fee, we can specify the base class, which should be tariff. Here we are. And then we can override the necessary method calculate fee. Let's do exactly that one. So in this case, the calculate fee here should, let's recap what we have. It should return the fixed amount of money, independent of the megabytes. So we do not need the megabytes here. What we can do is we can simply return the monthly fee here, and that should be okay because the customer only has to pay the monthly fee. The megabytes do not matter because everything is covered with the flat fee. In C#, what you can do if you have a parameter which you do not need, you can use the underscore, the discard operator, in order to make it very clear for a reader of the method that you do not need this parameter. Now let's go into the terminal and simply try a .NET build just to make sure that everything is fine, nothing goes wrong. There shouldn't be any errors because we don't see red squigglies here. Everything is okay, 0 warnings, 0 errors. It's always a good idea to run a build somewhere in the middle so you see that nothing bad is happening. You do not have some glitches in your code. So that looks pretty good. Now let's take the next one. Let's take the pay-as-you-go. In this case, I'm going to just copy the flat fee here because maybe it saves me a little bit of typing. And I will say this is pay-as-you-go. Pay-as-you-go is also derived from tariff. That looks very good. But this time, I don't need a monthly fee. I need a price per megabyte. Okay, this is what we need here. It's required here. Of course, I need to override the calculate fee method. And here I need my megabytes again, because this time they are really relevant. Now, what are the requirements for the pay-as-you-go tariff? Pay-as-you-go means that we have to pay this price for every megabyte that we use. So let's say return price per megabyte multiplied by megabytes. If we do that one, now we get an error, and this error says that we cannot multiply decimal and double. We get a double here. Our price per megabyte is decimal because it's a money amount, and it's a good idea to use decimal for money amounts, as you know, and we have to return decimal. So what we can do is we can apply a typecast, which we have talked about in lessons multiple times. We can simply say decimal, something like this. That will convert the double value megabytes into a decimal value megabytes, and then we can do the multiplication. So that looks pretty neat. Personally, if I take a look at this implementation and this implementation, I would use a little bit a different syntax. I would use the expression-bodied member syntax because it makes the code a little bit easier and shorter, easier to read and shorter. So I would probably write it in this way, as you can see it here, because then it's essentially a one-liner. If you want, you can put that one in the next line. It depends. You can choose the syntax with the return statement. You can choose this syntax. It is a question of personal preferences. But I like this syntax very much. You can choose yourself. Now we have the mixed version. So let's implement the mixed version. Public class mixed. It also derives from tariff. Here we are. And let's add the properties. Can remember I showed you a tip in the past which makes you a little bit faster in typing code. If you simply say prop and you press tab, then you will get an expanded version, and you simply have to type in the type decimal. Then you press tab again. That will mark the name of the property, and we can call it monthly fee. See? So using this prop is pretty neat. Prop tab, double tab, included megabytes. See? It works really nicely. Prop tab, decimal tab, price per megabyte. Remember these so-called snippets. Prop tab expands the snippet, and you can simply fill out the form, and that speeds up your coding. That enhances your coding speed. This is what I wanted to say. Now let's add, of course, the calculate fee method again. Here we are. Oops, I have to format it properly. And now we have to think about the algorithm. We ignore the phone calls. We just look at the megabytes. And the business rule is if the megabytes are more than the included megabytes, we have to pay for the megabytes which go beyond the included megabytes with the price per megabyte. And we always return the monthly, we always have to pay the monthly fee. So what we could do to keep it very, very simple is we could say var fee equals to monthly fee. That is the part that we absolutely have to pay. Then we can say if the megabytes are greater than the included megabytes, then we have to pay something extra. So what we can do is we can say fee, and we add the megabytes minus the included megabytes, this one, and we multiply that with the price per megabyte. Then we have again the problem with the data type, because megabytes and included megabytes are double, price per megabyte is decimal. So in this case, we have to do a typecast again to decimal. Now that looks good. So we have the monthly fee, and if our megabytes exceed the included megabytes, we have to pay for the amount that we exceeded with the price per megabyte. So we can return the fee and everything is good. Of course, you could express this algorithm in a different way. You could use math.max or things like that, but this is a very simple implementation and it works properly. It works fine. Why not using it this way? Very nice. So we have the tariff, the pay-as-you-go, the flat fee, the mixed, check. Minimum requirements, done. Now if we scroll down a little bit, you will see that we need to implement the app so that it contains user interaction, which looks like that. Here you see it. Essentially, the user interaction should look like that. We get asked for which tariff we want. We get asked for the monthly fee. The monthly fee is asked for the flat fee and the mixed. For the pay-as-you-go, we do not ask for the monthly fee. Then we get asked how many megabytes we used. That is done, I think, everywhere. Yes, it's done everywhere. Then we get asked we'd asked for included megabytes and price per megabyte, and at the end we print the pay. We print the amount of money that the user has to pay, and we have some reference data which we can use to check whether our implementation is correct. Okay, so let's get started with that one. Let's close this one. Let's go to the app, phone.cs. Here we are, and let's implement exactly that. The first question that we have to ask the user is this one. Which tariff does the user want? So let's do a console write with exactly that question. Console write will not go into the next line, so the user can now enter whatever he or she wants. So we can say var selection equals to console read line and use the exclamation mark operator as we have done in the past. By the way, in the upcoming weeks, we'll talk a lot about this exclamation mark operator when we talk about null, but this is not a topic for today. Just follow the guidelines that I gave you in the previous weeks and last year, and you're fine. Now, we have to think about what we ask the user. And many of you asked me whether it would be fine to rearrange the order in which you ask the user some questions. So could you ask for the megabytes first? Yes, of course, you can do that. As long as you ask all these questions, that's absolutely fine. So in my case, I want to demonstrate exactly that approach. So one of the simplest thing that you can do is you can ask the question that is asked every time. How many megabytes did you use? We can ask that question at the very beginning because it's asked every time. So what we can say is we can say console write, how many megabytes did you use? And then we say var megabytes equals to double.parse console.readline. We were not asked to do some error handling, so it's perfectly fine to do a double.parse. So that is absolutely okay. Good, so now we have the megabytes used. Now we need to ask questions which depend on the selected tariff. Let's do exactly that, but first let's create a variable in which we can store the object on which we operate. So let's create a variable tariff. Here it is. Maybe you noted that when I typed tariff, let me show you that a little bit slower. Here it is. When I typed tariff, and I simply accepted the suggestion, Visual Studio Code automatically added the using statement. That is very, very useful. So now we have a variable, but this variable is currently not having any values. But we will fix that in a second. So let's use the switch statement here. Switch selection. Here we are. Case F. And write the break statement immediately. And what I will do is I will simply write all the different cases first so that I can then focus on filling in the blanks. So this would be M like mixed, and this would be P as you go. So with the fixed tariff, with the flat fee tariff, we need to ask for the monthly fee, as you can see it here. So what we can do is we can do a console write monthly fee, and we can ask for exactly that monthly fee. But where should we store the monthly fee? Well, we have multiple possibilities that we can do here, but currently I want to make it very simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say var monthly fee equals to console readline, something like this, and the monthly fee should be a decimal, so I will say decimal.parse, and with that we have the monthly fee in a variable. Now this variable is declared inside of this case statement, but because we do not have curly braces, this variable is now spilling out of the case if you want. So what I typically do in such cases, I simply put curly braces around my case statement here, so this variable is really local to exactly that case statement. Okay, so this is just a local variable here. If I need this variable with the same name in a different case, that's absolutely no problem because of the curly braces. That's just me. You do not need to do that, absolutely. But yeah, for me, it's a good style. Do we have any additional questions that we have to ask? Monthly fee, megabytes used? No, we don't. So what we can now do is we can say tariff equals to new flat fee. That is exactly that one. And then we can say tariff dot monthly fee. Sorry, we need to write it like that. Here, monthly fee equals to monthly fee. That is exactly what I wanted. Now, this syntax may be a little bit confusing for some of you with these curly braces and initializing the properties. So if you don't want to do it like that, you can also change the code a little bit. Let me show it to you. You can do it like that. You can say var ff, like flat fee, for instance. Then you can say flat fee dot monthly fee equals to monthly fee. That is a possibility. And then you can say tariff equals to ff. That is also possible. But if you take a very close look, Visual Studio Code immediately tells you that this code is overly complicated. So we can use the light bulb here and say object initialization can be simplified. I can simply click on that and you will see that it automatically uses this property initialization syntax. And then you see that we do no longer need this complicated variable here. And we can say tariff equals to, see? So both variants are perfectly fine. Let me put both variants here side by side. This is one variant. It's the longer one, and the shorter one would be tariff equals to new monthly fee, flat fee, sorry, new flat fee. And then we can say monthly fee equals monthly fee. So that is a possibility, and you have to choose which one you want. I personally would prefer this one, but if you prefer this one, if it's easier for you to understand and to write, it's perfectly fine to use the longer one. Okay, let's do the same for the mixed variant. So we have to ask for the monthly fee again, this one, and let's copy it here. If you want to make it perfect, then you maybe want to create a helper method asking for the monthly fee, because as you know, you should not repeat yourself. And in this case, with the monthly fee, you ask exactly the same code twice, or you write exactly the same code twice. I will not do it here, but if you want to make it perfect, you can do that on your own as a kind of exercise on your own. So let's use the curly braces again so that we do not have a problem with the variables. Now we have the monthly fee, we need the included megabyte and the price per megabyte. Let's do exactly that. So what we can do is we can copy that one. Here we can say included megabytes. That is the included megabytes. The megabytes are double. And last but not least, we need the price per megabyte. So that is the price per megabyte, and that will be a decimal again. With that, we have three helper variables where we have the responses of the user, and now we can create the tariff again. This time I will immediately use the syntax with the property initializer. So I can say tariff equals to new mixed. And here with the mixed, because we need multiple properties, I will use multi-line syntax here. So let's say the monthly fee is the monthly fee, the included megabytes is the included megabytes, and the price per megabyte is the price per megabyte. Now, this is okay, so this is already a solution that is possible, but here with the mixed, I would like to demonstrate a different approach here, which some of you took, and it's a very good approach with the constructor. So let's go here to the phone tariff and go to the mixed implementation here. What we could do is we could restructure the mixed class a little bit. We could add a constructor. Can you remember how the constructor worked? We created a method which has the same name as the class. Now, inside of the constructor, we can use multiple parameters. We can say decimal monthly fee. We can say double included megabytes, and we can say decimal price per megabyte. Then inside of the constructor, we can take our parameters from the constructor and transfer them into the properties. So we can say monthly fee equals to monthly fee. Included megabytes equals to included megabytes. And price per megabyte equals to price per megabyte. If we do that, we do no longer have to use the set keyword here, because from outside, nobody needs to set these values. They are set by specifying the values in the constructor. That is the second option that you have, and it's a good option, as you can see it here. Now let's go to the program, and you see now our program does no longer work. Why? Because these properties are no longer settable. We have to specify the value here in the constructor parameters. So what we can do is we can say, give me the monthly fee, give me the included megabytes, give me the price per megabyte, and that's essentially it. As you can see it here. Oops, there is a curly brace which shouldn't be here. So here you see the difference. This is the syntax where you set the property, and this is the syntax with the constructor. If we look here, this is the constructor where we get some parameters and transfer them into the property. This is the syntax where we do not have a constructor and we initialize the properties directly. It's really up to you. C# has some additional features with which you could make this a little bit easier and faster, so-called records. We discussed records at the end of the last year. So please revisit our discussions there if you want to know how it works with records. But at the current state where we are, I do not want to confuse you with too many options. Using the class here is perfectly fine. I just wanted to note that maybe some of you ask themselves, hey, could I do that with records too? Because we discussed records. The answer is yes. But yeah, I want to keep it simple here and use a traditional class, as you see. Okay, so let's do the last one. Let's do the pay-as-you-go, and that shouldn't be very complicated. So let's use the curly braces in order to deal with the local variables. What do we have to ask? We need to ask for the price per megabyte. I will simply copy that code and use it here. That is this question. The question with the how many megabytes did we use? We already added that at the beginning of the code. Here you see it. And that's essentially it. So we can say the tariff in this case is new pay-as-you-go. Here it is. And use the property syntax again. This is the price per megabyte. And we are done, as you can see. Now, if the user specifies anything else, default, we will simply return from our main method. We will simply exit the program. Maybe we print something on the screen, right? Right line, and we can say wrong selection. Something like this. We are not required to do any specific error handling, nothing like that in the requirements. So let's keep it simple. Finally, we have to print the result, as you can see it here. So we can simply say console right line. So let's use a formatted string here. You have to pay. Then we are going to use the tariff dot calculate fee with the megabytes and add a euro sign here at the end, and that should be it. Let's give it a try. Let's open up the terminal here. Let's open up the terminal and say .NET run. Oh, of course, with the project phone tariff.app. That is what I want to run. Okay, the project is now compiled. It's compiled correctly. Let's do the first check here. So let's specify the F for flat fee. How many megabytes did we use? Let's say 50. What is the monthly fee? 70. So we have to pay 70 euro. First requirement, check. Works perfectly fine. Let's test the next test case. This time we are going to go for mixed plan. How many megabytes did we use? 1450, so 1.4 gigabytes. The monthly fee is 45. The included megabytes is 1000. And the price per megabytes is 2 cents. Let's see. 54 euro. Looks good. I think we are done. This is also check. And the last one, let's go for the pay-as-you-go, P. How many megabytes did we use? 750. This time the price per megabyte is 5 cents, something like this. And we have to pay 37.5 euro. So as you can see, first one, check. Second one, check. Third one, check. We are done. So here you see the solution, a rather simple solution that you can enhance this and there, but in general, it works perfectly fine. This would give you the full number of points for this minimum requirements. Very good. So if you want, pause the video here, and if you feel unsure about certain steps, recap what I did. So I really recommend, if you weren't able to fulfill the minimum requirements in the exam, pause the video here, put it to the side, take the exam specification again and re-implement everything from the top of your mind. And if you struggle, revisit the video. This is why I record this video for you. And once you've done that, come back to this video so that we can talk about the additional requirements next. Welcome back, and let's continue with the additional requirements. The additional requirements start by introducing an additional class here in the middle between tariff and flat fee and mixed. Flat fee and mixed both have a monthly fee. So in this case, we want to introduce a class here in the middle which reduces the amount of duplicated code. Because if we take a look at tariff here, you will see that flat fee has the monthly fee and mixed also has the monthly fee. That is duplicated code. Okay, granted, it's not a lot duplicated code. In real world applications, you would probably have more duplicated code. But yeah, it's a good example for an exam. So let's introduce this additional class here. I will go up here, and right after the tariff, I will say public. Now, if you take a look at this class is also just used as a base class for the other twos. So this will again be an abstract class, just like an abstract class tariff. Tariff with base fee, something like this. And then we will add or move the monthly fee up here into this abstract base class. So now we have this class, the tariff with base fee, but what we are missing is that the tariff with base fee should be derived from tariff. So that looks pretty good. Now here we have the problem that monthly fee is no longer available because flat fee derives from tariff, but that shouldn't be like that. Take a look at here. Here we have flat fee, and flat fee derives from tariff with base fee. So let's change that one, tariff with base fee. So now the error is gone because flat fee doesn't have a monthly fee, but it inherits the monthly fee from tariff with base fee. So with that, we are good. No change here in pay-as-you-go. As you see, it still derives from tariff, but the mixed also now is derived from tariff with base fee, and we can remove the monthly fee again. And with that, we have changed our inheritance hierarchy. We have the tariff, here the tariff. We have the tariff with base fee, here we have the tariff with base fee. And then we changed a flat fee. It now inherits from tariff with base fee. Here you see it, this one. Here you see it. And we have the mixed, which inherits from tariff with base fee. Here you see it, here you see it. So this was the first one. Check, done. Looks good. Now the console app has to be changed. It needs to work just as before. Let's take a look at the console app. Oh, we do not need to change anything. Yes, that is perfectly true. That is the point here. We do not need to change anything because the monthly fee is still available because it is inherited into our other two classes. Just to be sure, let's quickly run the program again and let's retest the case that we had before. Let's say 750 megabytes did we use, 5 cents per megabyte. It still gives us 37.5. That is the trick here. By changing this inheritance hierarchy, this class hierarchy, we do not need to change anything in our console app. It just works. Perfect. So this was a very cheap additional requirement which we could add to our project within a few minutes. Now the second one is a harder one. We have to add a second console app which imports some data from a text file. Okay, so let's do that. Let's add a new console app by choosing the .NET new project. Here, a new console app, and this time it should be called phone tariff.import. Okay, let's use the default directory. Now, as you can see, here we have our import. This import, just like the app, needs to use the logic library. So what we need to do is we need to, again, use a project reference. So right-click on the import. So come on, right-click on the import. Here we are. And choose the phone tariff logic app because this is what we want to use. If we check the CS_proj file here, then we see that we have a project reference to the logic library. This is exactly what I wanted to have. So next one, check. Add a second console app, check. It must be able to import usage data for a customer from a CSV file. Here we see some demo data. And here I have to apologize. I wrote here in the text that the data here is from a month, September 2023. But here you see that we have different dates. I told you that during the exam. I'm sorry that I made a mistake. The data is not just from September, so please ignore this comment here. As I said, I corrected this mistake during the exam, but still I have to apologize that there was a slight mistake here in the text of the exam. So we simply have to go through all of them. Let's take a look at the records. Some of them are data related, some of them are phone call related. If we have data related records, we have the date and time, and then the call length is 0 and the megabytes is set. If we have a phone related record, we have again data and time. Then we have the call length in minutes and the megabytes are 0. So in our exam, I told you we have to ignore the phone ones. So we can simply focus on the data ones and we have to summarize the megabytes here. All the other columns can be ignored because we are not taking a look at them. Okay, so very good. Let's check the additional requirements. In this case, the parsing must be done in a dedicated class, which is a static class, as you can see it here. And the data should be stored in another class, which is, oops, sorry, I clicked on the diagram. It would be another class with just a bunch of properties. So let's add them. Let's go to the logic library, as you can see it here, and maybe it is a good idea to add a new file, and let's call it importer. CS. Let's add the same namespace. We can copy it from the tariff file. And let's add the two classes first. The first one, class usage, and it should be public, obviously. We will fill it in a second. And the second one is a public static class, importer. Remember, static classes are just collections of standalone methods. There is no possibility to create an instance of a static class. It's just a collection of methods which logically belong together. In our case, it just contains a single method, as you can see it here. But first, let's write the usage class. The usage class is just a container for data, just a bunch of data items. So we just need a bunch of properties here. Prop, string, type. Prop, date time, time stamp. Prop, double, call length. Prop, double, megabytes. Looks good, right? Now we have a bunch of warnings here. It says that string has no default value. What we can do is we can give it a default value to get rid of the warning. What this warning is all about, I will tell you that in the upcoming weeks. But for now, we simply follow our guideline that I have shown you in previous examples. Simply give it a default value and the warning is gone. Now, for those of you who can remember what we did at the end of the previous year, of the previous school year, who again, you might remember the records. And in this case, it would really be a very, very, very nice possibility for using a record. Let me show you that. What you could have done, instead of using the class here, you could have said public record usage, where you say string type, date, time, timestamp, double call length, and double megabytes. See? And that's it. Just a single line. And this record here is essentially, well, technically not 100% correct, but essentially very similar to the class up here. But it is a single line. I told you at the end of last year that records are just data containers. Again, this is technically not 100% correct, but for now, let's assume it is. So this is really just a data container. If you have a class which only consists of properties, in this case, you can consider records. Records have some differences to classes, and we will discuss the difference in later parts of the year or maybe next year. But for now, it is perfectly fine to assume that records are just data containers with some properties in it. So if you want to use this one, it's fine. If you want to use this one, it's fine. In both cases, you will get the full number of points on your exam. I will keep it simple, and I will do this version because we talked more about these classes in this year, and this is already a few months ago that we discussed the records. So I just wanted to mention that this would have been perfectly fine if you would have used it like that. So this is my data container, which a bunch of properties, and now I can implement the importer. Static usage. Usage is the class up here, so we return an array of usages, import usage, and we get the file name that we should import as a parameter. Okay, that looks good. So what can we do? First, of course, we need to read the lines which are in the file. So let's say var lines equals to file.read all lines and specify the file name. Now lines, if we hover over it, is now an array of string. So what we get back is we get one entry here, see, one entry here for every line in this file. So now we need to create the array of usages because we want to turn every single line into one entry in the resulting array. So let's say var usage equals to new usage with square brackets lines.length -1. Why do I specify length -1? Because the first line here in this file is the header line. So we do not need to parse this line. So I simply reduce the number of lines from the file by 1 in order to ignore the first line with the headers. Now let's use a for loop for var I equals 1, I lower than lines.length and I++, something like this. Why do I start with 1 and not 0? Well, same answer as before. I would like to skip the first line in the array. I simply do not need it, and therefore I ignore line number 0. I start immediately with line number 1. The exam did not require you to write any error handling. You had limited time, so yeah, we have to skip something if we have limited time, and error handling was not required, so it is perfectly fine to assume that the data in this file is correct. Now let's split up the line here into multiple pieces. So let's say var line equals to lines I split. And how do we split it? With commas, because we see that the line is separated here. The records, the columns are separated by commas. This is what we do here. So var line equals to split and so on. And now we can create the usage record. Var u equals to new usage. and use this time the property syntax, which I have used before. If you use the long form, it's perfectly fine. If you use a constructor, it's perfectly fine. We discussed that just a few minutes ago. So the first one is, scroll up a little bit, the type. The type should be the first record here, first column here. So we simply say line 0. That is that one. The next one is the timestamp, and this is a date time. So we can use the parse method and say use the line 1, as you can see it here. The next one is the call length, this one, and that is a double parse, and that would be the line 2, as you can see it here. Whoops, comma, not semicolon. And last but not least, the megabytes is again double parse, and use the line 3. And with that, we really should be good. We do not need to add error handling, as I said before, to keep it simple. Now, you could argue that we do not really need the timestamp and the call length, because we do not care for the date and time when the data transfer happened, and we do not care about the call length because we can ignore phone calls. So if you would have created a solution where you simply ignored these two properties and where you simply ignored these two columns, it would have been fine. But it's fine to return everything, because maybe this import function will be used in the future for some additional calculation which should not ignore the phone calls. Then we can reuse the code. It's really up to you. That is something that you can decide on your own. Last but not least, we need to add the newly created usage record here to the array of usages. So let's say usage I-1 because the header line, remember the header line, equals to u, and then at the end we can return usage. And that is a nice implementation of the import usage function. Yes, there are possibilities how to write this function shorter. You could use a technique which is called LINQ. Some of you already know what LINQ, language integrated query, is. Yes, you feel free to do that if you are on this advanced level already. But I want to keep the implementation simple, and there's nothing bad about this implementation. It's perfectly fine. It works nicely. Okay, so import usage, check. That should be done. Now we have to restructure our app so that it no longer asks the question for how many megabytes did you use. Instead of the question how many megabytes did you use, we want to parse the file. Now we need the file, so let's download the file. It was part of the requirements. Here you see the file. So let's download this file. It's here. Let's open it up. I will open it up on my second screen and drag and drop the file here into my solution folder. This is the complete usage file that I gave you as part of the requirements. Here you see it. Okay, that's good. So let's implement the rest of the application. Let's go into the app and copy the entire code into the import code, because it's very likely that we need a lot of the requirements again. If you take a look here, the first question, which tariff, is exactly the same as in the first console app. In the exam, I told you explicitly that it's fine to copy this code from the app to the importer. There was no requirement that you create another class library where you create a central library for asking these questions just once. That was not part of the requirements. As I said, you had limited time, so I want to keep it simple. So it's perfectly fine to copy that one. Now here, the question for how many megabytes did you use, we do not need to ask this question, because this time the number of megabytes comes from importing the file. So we remove this console write line, and here we are going to use the importer that we just created. And in the importer, let's check it. Yeah, I forgot the public here. I'm very sorry for that. Public. Here we simply say import usage, and we specify the file name. Let's take a look. The file name is called usage usage.csv. So let's do that. Usage.csv. This is what we have. CSV stands for comma separated value. And with that, we have the megabytes. Looks good. Now, if we scroll down a little bit, the other questions remain the same. So monthly fee for flat fee. Here, monthly fee included megabytes, price per megabyte, monthly fee included megabyte, price per megabyte remain exactly the same. Pay as you go, price per megabyte is exactly the same, as you can see it here. Now, the megabytes here are now no longer megabytes, but they are usages. Okay, so this is what we have. So now we can calculate from these usages the total number of megabytes that were used. So let's do that in a simple loop. Var megabytes equals to 0, double, something like this. Then let's go through it using, for instance, a for each loop. For each var usage in, usage in usage, something like this. Did I call it usages? Let's see. Yeah, usages. Okay, I called it usages. And then we simply say megabytes plus equals usage.megabytes. Now you could ask the question, oh, Rainer, something is wrong because you did not ignore the phone records here. Well, I could do that with an if statement, but if you take a very close look at the data here, then you will see that for phone records, the number of megabytes is 0. So if we do not ignore the phone records, we add the value 0 to our total number of megabytes. And that's fine, because it doesn't change anything. So if you want to add an if statement, something like if u.type equals data, and only then add the megabytes, that is also fine. Feel free to do either of the two solutions. Now we have our megabytes, and we can simply call the calculate fee as you had it before. So essentially, the whole importing stuff was primarily this algorithm here. This was the challenge that I gave you. Writing this program was really, really simple. You simply copy the app and change the question to the user, how many megabytes did you use, with the importing of the file. And that's essentially it. Okay, so let's give it a try. Let's see if it works. So run the project again. We are going to start with the flat fee. The monthly fee, oh, I started the wrong project. I'm very sorry, because now I need the import project. Flat fee. What is the monthly fee? 45. We have to pay 45 euro, obviously, because the number of megabytes really don't matter. Next one. Let's try the mixed. Monthly fee is 45. Included megabytes is 1000. The price per megabytes is 2 cents. Let's run it. And the result is perfectly fine, as you can see it here. Now let's run the last one. That is now the pay as you go. The price per megabytes is 5 cents. And we have to pay 297.2285 euro. Check, check, check. Woohoo! We now have solved the entire advanced, or how do you call it, additional requirements section, and it would be 100% with a clear 1 on the exam. So if you didn't manage to implement the entire additional requirements in the exam, I encourage you to revisit the requirements. I encourage you to take a look at the requirements again and try to put the video to the side and implement the requirements from the top of your head. If you got stuck, revisit the video and really try to understand every single step. It's really crucial that you are able to solve a solution like that, because in the upcoming weeks, we are going to work on advanced concepts which go beyond what you have seen in this exam. I hope this video was useful. I hope you got some interesting information out of it. It was helpful for your understanding, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in class in a few days. Have a nice day. Bye.